The station was crowded, but the world seemed to blur around her. Emily clutched her stomach, wincing as another wave of pain surged through her. The hum of chatter and train whistles faded, all she could feel was the fear rising in her chest. She had been alone for so long, carrying this life, unsure if anyone would notice her struggle. People brushed past, oblivious, as her knees weakened and she sank toward the cold platform. Panic prickled her vision with tears she could not hold back. A shadow fell over her, and strong arms steadied her trembling frame. "Hey, you okay?" a deep voice asked. Emily tried to speak, but her voice cracked, and her world spun. The cowboy's eyes, calm yet intense, scanned her for injury. He didn't wait for her answer. Lifting her carefully, he whispered, "Let's get you somewhere safe." For the first time in hours, she felt a flicker of hope. The station's noise receded as he carried her to a small, secluded shelter behind the station. Emily's head rested against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart calm her own frantic rhythm. She tried to gather her thoughts, panic mingling with relief. Who was this stranger who didn't look away, who didn't judge? She had feared exposure, humiliation, being alone, but in his presence, a strange comfort settled over her. Inside the shelter, he eased her down onto a bench and knelt before her. "You need water," he said, producing a flask from his bag. Emily hesitated, embarrassed, but the pain had stolen her pride. She drank, feeling the cool liquid soothe her parched throat. The cowboy studied her carefully, noticing the swell of her belly. "You're pregnant, right?" he asked softly. Her nod was barely perceptible, but he didn't recoil. Instead, he offered her a reassuring smile. Her mind raced. How could she explain her situation? She had no family here, no one to trust, no one to call. Her last partner had vanished months ago, leaving her to navigate fear and uncertainty alone. Tears slipped down her cheeks again, and she felt utterly exposed. Yet, this cowboy seemed different. There was no judgment, no disdain. Only steady concern, a quiet determination to help her without questions she wasn't ready to answer. A sudden commotion outside startled them. The station guard's whistle pierced the quiet shelter, and Emily froze. Had someone seen her? Was she about to be scolded or worse, turned away? The cowboy's hand rested lightly on hers. "Stay calm," he murmured. "I won't let anyone hurt you." The courage in his voice seeped into her bones. She nodded, gripping his hand as if anchoring herself to safety. He glanced around the small shelter. "We can't stay here long," he said. "You need rest, but you also need proper care. Can you walk?" Emily shook her head. The pain was still sharp, her legs weak. Without hesitation, he lifted her again, carrying her as if she weighed nothing. The world outside blurred past them, the cold night, the flickering lights, the distant sound of a train departing, but she felt oddly secure in his presence. As they moved toward a quieter part of town, Emily's curiosity overcame her fear. Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Just someone who hates seeing people suffer alone," he replied, eyes forward, voice calm but firm. "You don't have to answer, but you do have to trust me right now." She swallowed hard, unsure whether to obey or panic, but the urgency in his tone left no room for hesitation. They reached a small, weathered inn on the edge of town. The cowboy pushed open the door and spoke briefly with the innkeeper, who seemed to know him. He carried Emily inside, easing her onto a soft bed. "You'll be safe here for the night," he said. Relief washed over her, mingled with embarrassment. She couldn't believe how quickly strangers had become her lifeline. The weight of solitude she had carried for months felt lighter, if only slightly. As she lay back, exhausted and trembling, the cowboy knelt beside the bed. "I'll stay nearby. Just rest," he said. Emily wanted to ask why he cared, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she simply nodded, letting herself breathe for the first time in what felt like forever. Outside, the night stretched quiet and vast, but within the shelter of this inn, she felt the faintest glimmer of hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't entirely alone. Morning light filtered through the dusty curtains, revealing Emily's exhausted face. Pain still lingered in her belly, but she felt safer than the night before. The cowboy sat nearby, sipping coffee, watching her with quiet vigilance. "Did you sleep at all?" he asked. She shook her head, tears of fatigue brimming. "It's okay," he said softly, "you've been through a lot. Today, we start fixing that." His calm determination made her heart pound strangely, not with fear, but with the fragile hope of rescue. The day began with practical care, warm food, clean clothes, and guidance on breathing through the pain. Emily noticed how naturally he moved around her, as if this was second nature. He didn't patronize or lecture. He simply acted. She wondered who he really was, why someone would devote so much time to a stranger. The question lingered, but she didn't ask. Trust, she realized, was built in small acts: water offered, hands held, pain eased. He had given her that, and for the first time in months, she felt human again. Then came the first twist. A letter slipped under the inn door, addressed to her. Her name was scrawled in familiar handwriting, the handwriting of the partner who had abandoned her. Her hands shook violently as she opened it. The words inside were cruel, mocking, reminding her of failure and loneliness. She felt the panic rising, the isolation she thought she had left behind threatening to suffocate her. The cowboy noticed immediately, his expression darkening. "You don't have to read that alone," he said, and quietly, she handed it to him. He read the letter carefully, then tore it into pieces. "They don't get to control you," he said firmly. Emily blinked, unsure if she could believe it. "But, it's my life," she whispered, trembling. He reached for her hand. "No, it's yours. And right now, it's about protecting you and this baby." Relief and disbelief warred in her chest. No one had ever said those words so clearly to her. For once, she didn't feel like a victim, she felt like someone worth saving. Outside, rain began to fall, drumming against the roof of the inn. The cozy interior seemed even more of a refuge, yet she felt restless. "I need to see the station again," she said hesitantly. The cowboy's brows knitted. "Are you sure? It's wet and crowded, and," he paused, reading her determination. "If you must, I'll be right there with you." She nodded, and together they stepped into the rain, the cool drops soaking them instantly but strangely refreshing. At the station, the memory of her collapse returned, the shame, the fear, the judgmental stares. But this time, she didn't falter. The cowboy's hand on her back reminded her she wasn't alone. People rushed past, unaware of the small drama unfolding in the corner. Emily's chest tightened, but she drew in a deep breath. The fear was still there, but she felt stronger. She had survived it before, and now, she had someone by her side. Someone who refused to let her fall again. The twist escalated when a figure appeared from the crowd, her old partner, shocked to see her alive and visibly pregnant. He tried to approach, to speak, but the cowboy stepped in front of her, calm but firm. "Back off," he said, his voice carrying an authority that silenced the noisy platform. Emily felt a surge of gratitude and power. No longer alone, no longer weak, she met his gaze and shook her head firmly. "I don't want anything from you," she said. Her voice was steady. Her strength, once invisible, now radiated clearly. Her old partner stammered, humiliated and powerless, and eventually left. The crowd barely noticed, absorbed in their own lives, but Emily felt an immense weight lift from her chest. The cowboy guided her away, gently, offering his arm. "You're free now," he said simply. Emily looked up at him, realizing that freedom wasn't just physical. It was the courage to stand, to live, and to trust again. Tears streamed, but this time they were relief and gratitude, not despair. Weeks passed. The inn became a small sanctuary for Emily, and the cowboy, whose name she learned was Luke, was always there. They talked, laughed, and planned for the future. Emily's fear of being alone diminished with every shared meal, every evening walk, every quiet conversation. Luke's unwavering presence made her believe in safety and love again. Each day, she grew stronger, more confident, more determined to embrace the life she was about to bring into the world. Finally, the day came when labor pains returned, but this time, Emily faced them with calm courage. Luke stayed by her side, holding her hand, guiding her through every moment. The room was quiet except for her determined breaths, the rhythmic pounding of her heart, and Luke's steady voice reminding her of strength. Hours passed, but eventually, a small cry filled the air, the sound of new life. Emily's heart soared, tears of pure joy streaming down her face. Luke smiled, brushing a damp strand of hair from her forehead. "You did it," he said softly. Emily, cradling her newborn, looked up at him, gratitude overflowing. "We did it," she corrected. In that moment, surrounded by warmth, hope, and new beginnings, she realized that life, no matter how cruel at first, could transform into something beautiful. And with someone by your side willing to fight for you, even the darkest nights could end in sunrise. Months later, Emily, her baby in her arms, walked through the town she once feared. The station no longer seemed intimidating, it was just another part of her journey. People smiled, unaware of her past struggles. Luke walked beside her, protective and tender, sharing quiet jokes and gentle smiles. They had weathered storms, faced shadows, and emerged stronger. Their bond, forged in fear and kindness, had become unbreakable. Emily felt whole. For the first time in years, her heart was at peace. The story closed with a golden sunset over the town. Emily, Luke, and the baby watched from a small hill overlooking the station. The world felt calm, promising, filled with laughter and life. Emily held her child close, whispering promises of love and safety. Luke wrapped an arm around her shoulder, anchoring her in the warmth of their shared life. Shadows of fear and loneliness had vanished, replaced by hope, family, and a new beginning. The cowboy who had carried her to shelter had carried her into a future she never thought possible, and she knew it was only the beginning.